Hi viewers and welcome to the channel and welcome to another lesson in understanding FreeCAD. We're going to be creating a simple model, so this pacman style model, but we're going to be looking at multiple ways of creating the same model. The reason why I'm doing this is to get you to understand the different tools that are available in both the part design and the part workflow and how they are similar to each other, but the process of using those tools have some differences. You'll probably be questioning which workflow to use. I recommend the part design workflow. It's in line with traditional CAD workflows. The part workflow is very useful when you're using the other workbenches and combining workflows together. And we'll get to that into future videos. So I hope you're enjoying the channel and let's have a look at this technique. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So we're going to create two documents in here. And we're going to name these in the workflows that we're going to be using. So for instance, I'm going to create a part workflow. So I'm going to save this one as part workflow. And the other one's going to be a part design. So this one's going to be a part design. And what we're doing is we're going to create a simple pacman in both of those. And we're going to venture into the different methods of actually creating these. So we've got part design workflow and a part workflow there. And keep both of these open, and this will allow us to understand how FreeCAD works with two open documents as well. Now there's many ways of creating this body. The most simplest way, if we start from the part workflow, is to go through a sketch. So we're starting in the part workflow. We've got a part workflow here. And well, if we're going to use the part workflow, we're going to go into the sketcher and actually sketch this item. So create a new sketch. Always going to be on the XY plane for this one. So this whole one's going to be on the XY plane. And again, we get into sketching. So obviously there's more than one way to sketch the object. For instance, we can create a circle and we can create lines coming from the center. And I've got my auto constraints on. So we've got auto constraints are on here. Normally I have auto remove redundant constraints on as well, so we do have that on as well. And we'll create some lines that attach to that circle like so, like this. And we can go through constraining these if we so desire, so we can put a vertical constraint on there. And then we use the trim tool, this tool here, trim an edge, and we'll trim that out, and we've created basically the design there. We can auto constrain this down if we so desire, but I'm going to leave it for that. We're not looking at understand sketching. We'll be doing some sketching in here and showing you a different way to sketch, because there's obviously a number of different ways to create this object. So create this simple object here. I'm not going to add an eye, I'm just going to create it like this. We'll get into that a bit later. So we close that, and if we come to our part workbench, then we just do a normal extrude. So this one here, extrude selected sketch. Got our sketch selected, and we extrude that, and we'll give it something like, there's 10 millimeters there, and we can OK that. So that is our part already done. So that's quite simple. That's using a normal extrude. So what would you use in the part design workflow? Well, we'll have to first of all create a body in here. Let's jump over to the part design, and you'll notice straight away that we'll create a body and we'll create a sketch XY plane, and we automatically go into the sketcher. We can do the same in here. This is basically the same process as sketching. We're in the sketcher. We can use this process, or we could use a different process. Let's take a different process. Let's do an arc in here. So we're going for the arc, and we'll click on our middle point and come out, and we'll say about there, and we can create an arc to about there. Hit escape. So we're using the arc, different way of doing it. And we're getting the same effect. Instead of a line, we're going to use a polyline this time, because we've got to go 1, 2, and 3. Again, I'm not too worried about constraints. I'm just going to make those two in line with each other. I can fully constrain this down with, say, a diameter or radius constraint. We've got 65 there. It's still not fully constrained because these move, but we can put either a length or a angle in here, so we can say how far away these are apart, like so. 35, and we still got some constraints left, so you can see that, well, this point isn't fully constrained to this middle point here, in here. So constrain that up, and that's fully constrained. So I just fully constrain that sketch. Obviously there's a number of ways to fully constrain a sketch. We don't have to use this height. We could have used an angle between these two in here if we so desire. So with this one, with extrude, there isn't a extrude in part design. There's something called a pad, and we can click the pad from here or the toolbar, or come up to the part design, and it's an additive feature. So these are additive features, the others are additive features, and we'll pad that up. And we'll close out there, go back to our model, and we can see if we open up both of these, we've got the extrude and the pad. So we've just used an extrude in the part workbench. You notice when we swap between pages, then we stay in the same workbench. It's not like having two versions of FreeCAD open, they're still in the same program, and our workbenches will still be the same, what we'd selected last time. No matter what document we're on, we have to actually go to that workbench to get to there. If you wanted to do that, you would need two versions of FreeCAD open, and you can swap and change between those, so they're in their different spaces really. So we've looked at basically the extrude or pad equivalence between the two workflows of part and part design. So let's change this now. Let's have a look how you would do this with a pocket. So we're looking at the same, but we're going to change the sketch. So I'm going to come into the part workflow first, doing it from here. I'm going to delete the body part design. So we're back to square one basically. We're going to do a different sketch. So we're in the part workflow, I'm in the part document, and we need to be in the sketcher. And this time I'm going to create a circle, but I'm not going to take anything out of it. So we're just going to create a circle there and close that. Come into the part and we'll extrude that. Give it whatever dimensions you want, but I'm just going to extrude that. So that's extruded that. Now we need to take material away from here. So we're going to be using something called a cut, which is a Boolean operation. But we need something to cut from this. So for that, I need to create a sketch. So I'm going to click this face, come over to the sketcher. You can click the face in the sketcher if you so desire. And I'm going to add a sketch flat face to there. So that's attaching it to that face. Put a little bit of angle on there. You can see how that's been attached to there. So this is the plane that's been attached to there, and the sketch sitting on that plane. So our sketch will be sitting along this plane on that face. And I'm going to just center myself and use a polyline, and we're going to come out something like this. So I'm going to make a triangle. It doesn't have to be an exact triangle, because what we're trying to do is remove material from this. So this triangle comes out like this, and we're looking at the material that we're looking to remove, which is in here. So close that. We've got the triangle there, and we're going to go back to the part. Two ways I could have done this. I could have put the triangle on the bottom, attached it to here, or as I've done it here, tacked it on top. I even could have done this separately as a separate body. And we'll extrude that. Now we're going to go along 10 millimeters because this is 10 millimeters high. So we need to do it along the Z axis, but it's going to go this way. So if we hit Z, and we can see which way that's going to actually pad. So we've got a custom direction in there. So let's hit OK. And that was the minus direction, so it's gone this way downwards. If we did it the other way, we can get to that extrude again and do it the other direction. And by double click on it, going into there, and we've got the length forward 10 millimeters, and we can go minus 10, and that pushes it up this way. So 10 millimeters, and we did it along an axis. So the direction here was -1 along the Z. So we're going in the reverse direction. I did it 1, and then it goes up. So this is all about reversing that direction. Don't want to get too far into this. But what we've got is the two extrudes, and we need to do a Boolean operation. So we want to click on the one we want to keep, and then control click the one that we want to extract. You can either do it from here or control click like so. And we use this option here, make a cut, also available on part Boolean, and cut from there. And that cuts that from there. So that's another way of doing this. How would you do it in the part design workbench? Well, let's come over to the part design workbench, and we'll create a body and create a sketch. I'll see a number of ways of doing this as well. XY plane, I could have gone up to here. You saw it up here, there's create a body, create a sketch up here, or even the toolbar. But we've been dumped into the sketcher now, and we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to place a circle in here, hit close, pad this, and take the arbitrary 10 millimeters there. Click that face, and then create a new sketch up on that face, and create this new sketch. That's attach that sketch to the face. We'll do the same, polyline, and create line connected to the center. Got the auto constraints on, so you can see straight away we've got the vertical constraint by the side of the mouse pointer coming in there. So that's coming in there, and when we hover over that center point, it attaches to the center there. Hit escape, hit close. Now instead of padding, we use a pocket. So this item here, which is a subtractive feature, so it's a subtractive action in there. We've got the pocket over here, also part design, and we can see how it's a subtractive feature here. This is create subtractive feature and a pocket. Do a length, or if we just go through all, that will take it through the whole lot, and whatever's underneath that's attached to it. To first takes it to that first face, and there we've created the same as in the part design, that cut in the part, and in the part design that pocket. So you can see the actions, and you can see how they differ. So if we come into the part workflow, we've got a cut here, and we've got extrude and extrude. These two extrudes, you can bring these back by pressing the spacebar, so you can see the originals, and click on the cut and hide that, so you can see the originals. And inside that, these two features, this one and this one, or these two actions, created this feature, the cut. In the part design workflow, we have something different. We have a more linear. So we start from our original, press the spacebar on the pad, the pocket will disappear. You see this little icon here? That's the last action, so that's known as the tip. So we have a pad, and then we have the next action, which is pocket. If we modify anything on here, then this will be also applied to the pocket. You can see it's gone into error there because I did something that wasn't right for that. I made it a bit too small, so let's close that, and our pocket's back. That went into error. So anything we do upon this sketch here, let's say we add, just wondering whereabouts to add this, let's add a circle up here. You can see that circle will be added there as a whole, because the sketch has this circle, and then anything inside it that's a closed sketch, so this is a closed sketch inside here, will be seen as an void or a hole. So that's a void or a hole, a space. So we've got space around here, we've got our object, and we've got space. So I can delete that now and close that. And this is parametric design. So this is the parametric way that FreeCAD uses these features in here. Change the underlying feature, you change the features on top, hopefully not breaking them. So you have to be careful of that. The same with this workflow, our part workflow. We have a cut and the two extrudes. So if I changed this extrude here, which is the insert, I'll double click on that and just, let's say it's just move it this way and hit OK. So I've moved the invisible insert. If I press the space bar, you can see what I'm doing. Right click, transform. You can see how moving that changes the cut. So these are the workflows, how they work in the part workbench and the part design. The part design is feature based, where the part workbench is more Boolean, cuts, abstractions, etc. So let's try a different way of creating these objects. Just going to delete those. Come into the part workflow as well and delete those as well. So we're in a part workflow, so I need to be in the part. Now, another way of doing this would be a revolve. So we're looking at revolving an object. Again, I need to start in the sketch because we will start from a sketch or a primitive object in there. And we'll create a sketch, XY plane. Now, I'm not going to create a closed sketch. I'm going to create an open sketch. So an open sketch is basically something like this. So that line there, that's an open sketch. So we'll take that single line over in the part and we'll create something called a revolve with that revolver selected shape. Right to part, revolve, and it'll give you some option here. So we've got a number of options here and you can play with these, but this angle, this is what we want to look at. So we only want to revolve it a certain degree. So it's 360 degrees. Let's go for something like, say, 280 on there. Got the direction to revolve it. Select a reference if we so desire. So at the moment it's revolving around the Z axis. So if we look at the Z axis, so if I hit, make sure that you've got the shape selected, hit OK, you can see it's revolved around there. But we've only got one face. Let me get rid of that revolve and just show you that. So if I click on that and revolve that again and then say Y, then it's going to revolve like this. So that's no good. And if we delete that and revolve around the X, hit OK, you can see we get a cone that way. So we need to revolve around the Z, because if we're looking at where the sketch is sitting, let's do a revolve on that, then the sketch is sitting, click top. Along here you can see the Z is pointing upwards, so we need to revolve around that Z. So always look at this and look at the revolve. So we're looking at the Z and hit OK. That's 360. Clicking on it, angle on the data tab and something like 280. So that's created the revolve out of that shape, but it's just a face at the moment. So we can do a number of things with this. We can use the extrude again. So extrude that. Saying along the normal plane, so Z, we can extrude it along the normal plane, hit OK. And that's absolutely fine. We could have come in to that extrude and instead, let's get rid of that, press the spacebar to get the original revolve back and hit extrude again, and instead select a plane from here in a custom direction if we had problems with this, if this was on a different tilt, and hit OK. We've got that there. So we've created this time a revolve and an extrude from those. Let's go to the part design workbench. So in the part design at the moment, we've still got our old one in here, the body and the pocket. Let's get rid of that and hit yes. Right. So we've got the part workflow, part design, jump over to the part design workbench. Let's have a look at how to create this object in here. So we need a body and the sketch, obviously. XY plane, so we're looking down on it from the top. And we're going to create, again, a line. Doesn't matter where the line goes as long as it's on this plane. And hit close. Now with this revolve, we need a closed sketch. So if I click revolve on that, well, first of all, our sketch needs to be inside the body, which it is. And we need to select the sketch and revolve that. And we're going to be asked for a plane, so we're going to select top. And well, we want the Z axis, so this one here. And 280. But if I hit OK, you can see that didn't actually work. So you can see how different that is. Let's go back into the sketch. And this time we're going to create a closed sketch. So I'm going to get rid of this sketch. And this time I'm going to come in and create a sketch. And I'm going to do it on different planes. So we're going to look at the XZ plane here, this one here. So we're looking at it from the front. Now, if you look at the part workflow and bring this around to the ZX plane, you can see that if I just give it a bit of angle there, still on the ZX plane, we've got this profile here, and this is what we need for the revolve in the part design workflow. So in the part design workflow, we need basically a square profile, like so, making sure that we're going across this center. We can reference others, but we're not going to go into that in this video because it's adding more complexity to that. So we're looking at rotating around this axis here. Go to tasks, hit close. We've got what's known as a profile. So we'll be able to revolve this using the revolve. Again, this is an additive feature, so it's under the create an additive feature, revolve. And you can see how that's working now. It's going across the vertical sketch axis. And we can set that to 280. And we get the chunk taken out of there, like so. And there's a number of options here, symmetrical to plane, reversed. Let's take that off, etc. And we can just change this to whatever size we want. So we have this object created similar, but you can see how different that is to the part workbench. We can play with the axes here, so base Z axis, which is this axis here. If I select that, it actually selects it as well. So this axis here, which is the axis it's supposed to be going through. And we could do the X axis, and you can see how that profile is used, but in a different way. So it goes around here. So we've got this here. So we should be using the Z axis and an angle of whatever you want, 280, 300, etc. So there's another way of using the revolve. You can see how different they are between those two. We could use the same process over for the part workbench. So I'm going to come in here, this revolve. So this was revolved with a sketch that was opened. So it's a single edge or multiple edges that do not come back to the beginning vertex to create a closed shape. So I'm going to get rid of that revolve, the extrude and the sketch, and we'll come into the part workflow and create a new sketch in here. I'm going to jump into the sketcher, get away from the part design, otherwise it starts confusing things, and we'll create a new sketch in here. We're going to use the same plane, so it was the ZX plane as the part design workflow. So this workflow here, which is the body and that, and remembering, come around to the ZX plane, which is this one. This was the profile that we used. that sketch, that profile. There it is there, along the ZX plane. Click the front, there it is there. We're going to create the same over in the part workbench. So in the part workflow now, and we'll double click that sketch, ZX plane, and create our profile. So we've got the profile here. We're going to do the same. So the sketch, come into the part workflow. So we're doing the part workflow, and we're going to create a revolve. Revolve axis is the center of this, so we're looking to revolve it around the Z, and we want to do around about 300 to 280. So let's put 280 in here and hit OK. And we've revolved a closed sketch, which, if you go back to the part design, is exactly the same, basically the same process. But this part workbench allows us to use open and closed sketches. Gives us that little bit more flexibility there. So that's another way of doing the same object. Let's get rid of these again. Let's think about one more example. So another example, if we come over to the sketcher, we're in the part workflow. We'll add the same along the XY plane, just a circle on here. Like so. We're going to use a Boolean operation with a primitive. So close that. We've got the sketch in here. We come over to the part, and we've got the yellow primitives up here. Add the square. Well, first of all, we need to extrude this sketch 10mm. There we go. And we added the cube to that one. Looking for the height. Well, the height is 10mm. The width, let's go for something like 100. And length 100. And we've got that there. So you probably can see where this is going if we take the one we want to keep and the one we want to remove and use the Boolean cut, make a cut of two shapes. Obviously part Boolean cut. Then we've got that shape there. It's very similar to the one we did with the extrusion when we had the shape in here and we extruded out the triangle, but we just use as primitive object. We can use the same in the part design. So come over to the part design, make sure we come into the part design, and we'll create a body and a sketch upon there. XY plane, okay, and we're following basically the same process, but there's going to be something slightly different. So create a circle in here, hit close. We'll pad this. We use this task here and pad. You normally use it from here or the menu bar. We'll go for pad in there. 10mm. Okay, that. And we're going to create another square in here and do the same. But we don't need to Boolean it. We've got some subtractive features. So these red ones are subtractive. And we've got these primitives here. So we've got to create a subtractive box and cone, etc. So we'll go for the subtractive box. And we'll click that. That adds it in. We're looking at the same height of 10, width of 100, length of 100. And that's added in there. The minute we hit OK, that subtracts it from that body. So the two workflows, when we look at them, we've got the cut, extrude, and the cube, which has been used as Boolean. This one, we've got a linear workflow body and the actions going down, the pad and the subtractive box. So you can see how many different ways we can create the same object. Why am I going through this? Because it's well worth looking at these objects and just playing with them and seeing the different ways. It really gets you to understand how FreeCAD works and how CAD works, because these kind of operations are available in standard CAD programs. The thing that we have are these two different workflows. FreeCAD gives you multiple workflows where you can combine the workflows, so you can combine the part design and the part workflow, I would be cautious when doing this, especially as a beginner. I would steer away from it as a beginner because you need to know how these workflows differ from each other and how they're used for different purposes. So for this one, we could pick either or. This application, we could pick either or workflow, part or part design. When we get into different types of modeling, different objects that we model, we then may need to combine these workflows together or use one over the other. So part design is a feature base. Part workflow is Boolean operation based. It's also down to personal preference. Some people will prefer the part workflow over the part design and vice versa. You'll find more people prefer the part design workflow because it's more in keeping with normal CAD processes. So once again, we've cleared everything out and we're going to start from fresh. This time we're going to be using a mirror. So I'm in the part design workflow and we'll create a sketch, XY plane, okay, and this time we're only going to be creating half the object. So I'm going to create a line here and a line going this way, and we're going to be using a different kind of arc, the endpoint and rim point. So it gives you an idea of the different tools that we can do to create this. And I'm going to create an arc. Now it's important, if we look at the bottom line that's moving up and down there, that gives us an idea of where we can actually place this arc. So I've made that line go along here. If I hit escape, you see this point here. If I move that up and down, that moves that arc up and down. So we can just connect that to here if we so desire. With a point on object constraint, got a nice arc here. But this is the shape we want to create. So let's close out of here. When the part design, we created that shape. We'll pad that up and hit OK. What we'll do now is that we got that body there and we'll create a mirror. So we click on that pad and create the mirror feature. So now we need to mirror across one of these planes, so we can select the horizontal sketch axis, that one there, and mirror that across. It's worth coming in here and just playing with these, see which ways they will actually mirror across. So the XZ plane allows that as well, which is this one here. If you click these, then they may not take. As you can see, nothing's taken, so come down here and change them along here. Vertical sketch axis, horizontal sketch axis, or XZ plane. And that's that feature mirrored across there. And we've got this here. We've got this line here now, which we don't want. Let's click on mirror, refine, set this to true. That removes that. So that's one face now. So that's how to do it with a body mirror in the part design. Mirroring a feature. Remember that this is a feature mirror. So anything we do now won't get mirrored across. So I can click on this here and create another sketch upon the XY plane. I didn't actually select that face there, so let's get rid of that. Click that face, new sketch, there we go, that's better. And we stick a circle in here and pocket that. Then you can see that's not being mirrored across. And our action, our mirror, our pocket is the next action. So this is a mirroring of features, not a mirroring of this side. So this side here, bring back that to false. You can see what happens if we start playing with that mirror. Things start to change. Let's set that back to true. Whereas on the other case, if we went to the part workflow and create the same sketch, and I'm going to cheat, I'm going to come into this document. Let's have a look. Where's our pad? Let's take that sketch. This for quickness. Come in, Control C that, and it's okay with that, and come into the part workflow and just Control V. Don't want the XY plane there. Let's get rid of that. Yep, and show that sketch. So we've got that sketch there. from the top. Just Control C, Control V, a sketch across. You can copy sketches across documents. Just done that for quickness. And we're in the part workflow now. So we're in the part workflow. Did the part design, now we're in the part. And we'll extrude that rather than pad that. Okay. Now we can do a mirror on there. Click the extrude part mirroring, or use the mirror feature here. Mirroring the extrude, and we want it mirrored across over this way. So we're looking to flip it along the ZX plane. So if you think of your planes coming up here, X is this way, Z is this way. We want to flip it across that plane that runs like this. So if you draw a plane, a flat square in 3D space, like here, we're flipping across that. So it's actually the XZ plane. So going along and up the stairs, XZ plane, and XY, XZ. Okay, that. And it's mirrored across like so. So we've got that there. There are two separate parts in there. That mirror's there. We can't refine that at the moment. The way to refine it is to take these two. So refinement's getting rid of this line here to create one face. So like and like faces connected together. We'll make a Boolean across that. That's the wrong tool. Let's come out of there. And use the make a union of several shapes, or part Boolean union. Creates a fusion, which we can then refine to true. And we have our shape. So that's the mirroring option there. So we've created the same shape, but we've mirrored that across. So you can see how many different ways we can actually create the same shape from those different techniques. Obviously for this, you'll be using a very simple technique of extrude, creating the shape as this. So line, arc, line, and either using an extrude or a pad depending on what workbench or workflow you want to use. As a beginner, I wouldn't mix these workflows. I would keep away from mixing them for the time being until you start learning FreeCAD and understanding those individual workflows. I will have videos coming up on those workflows and how to combine them, how to safely combine them, but just try to keep to one workflow per project. If you start combining them, then you start getting yourself into a bit of trouble unless you know what you're doing. There's ways to safely combine them, and there's ways to basically abuse them, and where you'll get yourself into a situation that you'll look and think, I need to start again. And that's not what you want to do. You want to be able to carry on with those workflows and make progression rather than going backwards. The techniques that I showed you with the different ways of creating the same object are useful for different applications. So you'll come across applications as you're using FreeCAD, as you're starting to understand it, where you'll use those different applications, where you'll use a Boolean, where you use a Revolve, where you use the pad, the pocket, etc. It's well worth, when starting out with FreeCAD, to create a very simple model and then look at different ways of taking that model and changing those workflows, changing those techniques, and starting to really understand how FreeCAD works. So I hope you found this tutorial useful of how to create this part in multiple ways, and I hope to see you again in future videos. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.